What's this? A real challenge? You've finally caught my attention. A fellow exile. One more fool under Zana's sway. Allow me to destroy you before she has a chance to betray you, too. At least, my way will be quick. You slew my friends! You brought ruin to my world! You have invaded my very sanctum. I should be furious, and yet, I feel nothing. How boring and small. Destroying you is as easy as flicking a pest. Did you really think this would work? I transcended all this long ago. Feel the thrill of
the void. Why run? What's the point? Your lives are meaningless. Watch UT crumble.
Impressive. But now you will fight on my lands. You assumed I share the same weakness as my fellows. And now you come to me. Is it bravery or foolishness? You will long for
non-existence. Reign of stars. Everlasting fire. Glorious flames. Be silent.
What drives you, exile? Is it justice? Revenge? Honor? No. It is power. We felt your deeds. Felt their shockwaves ripple through the void. You have our attention. Now you must keep it. Your limits will be tested. The stars themselves will bear silent witness. How far will you bend before you break? Drives you, exile? Is it justice? Revenge? Honor? No. It is power. You have our attention. Now you must keep it. Your limits will be tested. The stars themselves will bear silent witness. How far will you bend before you break?
Hey guys, welcome to another little video. It's been a while since I posted a build guide. That's because the League starter that I played was Burning Arrow and it was a astonishing success. You already know that. I already made a video about that previously. Nothing changed, so I didn't see a reason to make another Burning Arrow guide. But here we are on another character of the League. It is once again a cast on crit Ice Nova. Guess what? It's not an elementalist. It's an occultist. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of why occultist and the gear and all that good stuff, I really want to go real quick about cast on crit and how it works. You have to think about this build as a expensive watch, right? As a watch has all these intricate pieces that all work seamlessly together to give you the proper time and stuff like that. You have to think of this build just like that, because this build has so many pieces that need to work together in order for you to get a optimum DPS. There can be just like you don't have enough attack speed, you don't have enough cooldown recovery rate, you don't have enough crit chance, you don't have enough accuracy. All these things factor together. If one of them is not maxed out to how it's supposed to be, you will lose DPS and you will say like, this build is shit, right? Even though it's not. Okay, so let's talk about cast on crit. When we speak about cast on crit, we need to think about number one, crit chance. You have to be as close as possible to crit cap, 99.5% or more. Because if you're even 1% lower on the crit chance, you're gonna not crit, which means your Ice Novas don't go out, which means you don't do damage, because our Cyclone doesn't do damage. We're only using Cyclone for the trigger. Okay, good. So, and of course, based on crit, to try and get as much crit as humanly possible, we also need accuracy. If you don't hit, you don't crit, you don't proc an Ice Nova, you don't do damage. You see what I'm getting to? Okay, so let's say we got hit cap, main chance to hit, 100%. Great. What's next? Crit. Okay, as you can see here, main attack critical strike chance is only like 23%, but once we go into the POB, you will see that it's close to 99.99%. So almost close to 100%. Okay, the other thing that we need in order to squeeze as much DPS as we can from this build is cooldown recovery rate. Now, very important, you need a minimum of 15% cooldown recovery rate in order for you to not buy the Awaken cast on crit. This is gonna be not the most expensive setup, but it will still do insane amount of damage. You'll see once we get in the POB again. So if you get 15% cooldown recovery rate, you will not need the Awaken cast on crit. You will not need it. Is it like a minimum? Is it like a chase item, and if you want to min-max you should get it? Yes, but we'll get into that later. Okay, so now that you understand accuracy, crit, and cooldown recovery rate, now let's see why it's important to have cooldown recovery rate. In cast on crit builds, there are things called breakpoints. Breakpoints require a minimum amount of each. Cooldown recovery rate and attack speed. Okay, so if we go to Cyclone, we see that we have around 6.45 attacks per second, but that is not taking into calculation the flasks that we have once we're spinning, and all the buffs and all the power charges, and even if you have some frenzy charges. I'll explain that once we get to the POB section. So, breakpoints. For the minimum breakpoint you want is 15% cooldown recovery rate from either your boots or your belt. You can get this from a belt if it's a Shaper Influence belt, or you can get it from Awakened cast on crit. Good. So for the cooldown recovery rate, you can have a minimum of 15% and a maximum of however much you want. It doesn't really matter. Like, you can go up to 51%. And then, based on this, if you have a minimum of 15% cooldown recovery rate, you want to get your attacks per second at a maximum of 7.57. I'll have a table like showing this. So you can have it between 7.45, 7.46, 47, 48, but not above 7.57, because then your attack speed will be higher than your cooldown recovery rate can handle it, and you're gonna miss procs, which means you're gonna be missing damage. Let me just go D&D. Okay, the next breakpoint, which requires a substantial amount of more currency that you need to invest into the build, is when you have between 52% and 57% cooldown recovery rate. How do you get that much, you say? Because the boots only give you 15%. Well, you get 15% from the boots, you get 15% from the Shaper belt that I told you about, that's 30%, and then you can get, I believe, 22% from the Awakened cast on crit. So you can already see it is a highly, a very expensive with high investment min-max. Okay, and the thing about the second breakpoint of 52, minimum of 52% cooldown recovery rate is that you need to have a very high attack speed, but not higher than 10.1 attacks per second. Good. So we got cooldown recovery rate and attacks per second. This is the bare minimum. You can find more videos going into more detail about that, but then you'll probably be discouraged to play the build because it's like rocket science, right? And people are gonna say about server ticks and this and that, and no. 15% cooldown recovery rate, no more than 7.57 attacks per second. 52 minimum cooldown recovery rate, no more than 10.1 attacks per second. And that's it. So, let's get into the gear. Now that you know the basics of cast on crit, that you need to cap your accuracy, your crit, and you have the minimum breakpoints, let's get into the gear. Our weapon is the one and only Cospri's Malice. It is a unique jeweled foil with trigger-socketed cold spells on melee critical strike with 0.15 second cooldown. But with a cooldown recovery, this helps it go a little bit faster. Okay, this gives you a absurd amount of cold damage and cold damage to spells, attack speed, and crit chance and crit multi. Great sword. For the gloves, what you really want to look out for is the Temple mod, cold resistance plus increased damage with hits against chilled enemies. This is probably the best thing that you can get, and prioritize the thing that you are missing, such as accuracy and dexterity, because it's a very dex dependent build. It requires 212 dex just for the sword. You will be struggling a little bit on the stats. Try and get the dex and see what you're missing otherwise, like ES, life, accuracy, or stuff like that. Cool. For the belt, you want a crystal belt because of the implicit flat energy shield. It's a big DPS boost, and you want it to be a Crusader influence because it has a chance to give you % ES. Like you can see, I have the T2 increased maximum energy shield and the flat ES also tier 3. You can buy the belt influence, put some dense catalysts on it, defense catalysts on it to get the defense modifiers increased, and then just bombard it with defense fossils until you get something good. For the suffixes, you want increased spell damage during Flask effect. I got lucky and got some resists. And yeah, that's the belt. Very basic, not too fancy. You could perfect it if you want to invest a lot of money, but that's all up to you. For the boots, the most important part about the boots is the cooldown recovery rate. The way that I crafted these boots is I spammed speed essences on the sorcerer base with damage penetration 10% elemental resistances if you haven't killed recently, which is the best enchant, by the way. I just spammed essences until I got the T1 cooldown recovery rate. Luckily for me, I got T2% ES, which is pretty big, and then rarity and some chaos, which doesn't really matter. For the chest piece, this being a low life build, we are using Chevron's wrappings in order for us to reserve life for our auras for more DPS and not die to chaos damage, which bypasses energy shield, and that's why we run the shafts. You can get a good corruption on it or anything, but trying to get 4 off color sometimes is pretty difficult. You don't need a corrupt, you don't need a 6Y, just get a shafts. Okay. For the amulet, we just use a Presence of Chayula, which allocates Tranquility, which is the best anoint for the build. Tranquility gives us Transfiguration of Soul, which increases and reductions to maximum energy shield, also apply the spell damage at 30% of their value. Basically, whenever you get increased maximum energy shield, you also get increased spell damage, which buffs our Ice Nova. For the shield, the best shield for the build is obviously a Prism Guardian, because we're going low life. This allows you to socket to reserve 350% auras, like 250% and 135%, I'm sorry, in your shield, and then you reserve it with mana, with life, I mean. You usually want to put your biggest auras in the shield because it's less reservation. Now, for the helmet, you want, if you can afford it, you can buy a Hubris Circle with 40% increased Ice Nova damage. That is the best enchant. I obviously don't have it. And then you want 2 base items, 1 Redeemer, 1 Warlord, and then you smash them together with an Awakener Orb for +1 power charges, and the nearby enemies have cold minus max to cold resistance. I got extremely lucky and I hit the T1 accuracy, which made my getting a 100% chance to hit a lot easier. If you don't get lucky, you will have to adapt and get accuracy elsewhere. Okay, and for the rings, we are using 2 Circle of Fears with increased cold damage while effective by Herald of Ice, and Herald of Ice has reduced reservation. And the same for the other one, increased cold damage while affected by Herald of Ice, and Herald of Ice has reduced reservation. Why reduced reservation? So we can fit in our little skitterbots. Okay, so to the gems in the sword, because Cosprey will trigger a socketed cold spell whenever you crit, we're gonna put Frostbolt, Ice Nova, and Frost Bomb. Why do we do this? Because they will trigger every time we crit, they will trigger in succession starting from top to bottom. They will go Frostbolt, Ice Nova, Frostbomb. The order does not matter. This is a thing that you can do however you like. In the gloves, we have Awakened Blasphemy with Elemental Weakness and Frostbite. This allows us to cast our 2 curses, Elemental Weakness and Frostbite, as auras, which is amazing. Basically, we don't have to run a curse on hit. We don't have to run Vortex with curse on hit or something like that. You just have these up all the time, which is great from our Ascendancy also. And a Herald of Ice. In the boots, I have a Vortex, Bone Chill, and Arcane Surge. Basically, whenever you spend enough mana with Vortex, you get Arcane Surge. This is amazing for bossing. It boosts your damage quite a little bit. And Flame Dash, of course, for mobility. Like I said, in the shield is Hatred, Discipline, and Zealotry. You want to socket in your biggest auras, the ones that reserve the most mana, in order to benefit from going low life. In the helmet, we have Arrogant Support, which is basically... I forgot the wording. Basically, it's like another way to reserve a life instead of mana. It actually says that. Okay. With linked to Precision, level 20. So we can reserve Precision with life. And then we have our good old Skitterbots. Basically, we are running about how many auras? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 auras to really pump up our damage and get us crit, accuracy, shock, and all that good stuff. And in the main chest, we have our main damage dealer, which is the Ice Nova. We are using Cyclone, Ice Nova, Cast on Crit, obviously, Awaken added cold damage, level 5. Why level 5? Because at level 5, Awaken added cold damage gives you +1 of supported cold skill gems. Basically, it gives our Ice Nova 1 additional damage, and also a boatload of increased cold damage and flat cold. We also use Inspiration. Inspiration is very good for this build. It reduces the mana cost of Cyclone. And the one that I'm using is a Anomalous Inspiration, which gives us more crit. You don't need Anomalous, but it will help you in the long run if you're struggling to get as close as possible to being crit capped. Okay, and the last gem is Power Charge on crit. This helps us sustain power charges every time we crit. Basically, we're gonna be at 8 power charges almost instantly. Even on bosses, on single target, it doesn't matter. We're always gonna be on 8 power charges. So that's the gear and the gems. Let's talk about the flasks. Flask, we use a Sirus Promise, some more leech, elemental damage converted to chaos, all that good stuff. Now, Cinder Swallow Urn. This gives us onslaught and also has recover 3%, 1 to 3% life when you kill a ignited enemy. And mana, energy shield, and also has a lot of crit. In order to benefit from this flask at its maximum capacity, you want to have somewhere or an item that has fire damage. Adds fire damage to spells, adds fire damage to attacks, but preferably to spells, because the spells are gonna hit way harder than the Cyclone, and that will ignite them and give you all the benefits of using a Cinder Swallow. For the Quicksilver, we are using a Quicksilver with Remove Curses, the good old Bottle Fate, which is good in every build. I know it's expensive, but it will immensely help you getting close to crit cap. And then we use a Diamond Flask, which removes Freeze and Chill, because we are not element immune. Okay, good. Now, let's talk about the Ascendancy. We are going Occultist because we have Malediction. You can apply additional curse, 15% increased effect of your curses, and enemies you curse have Malediction. Enemies with Malediction deal 10% reduced damage and take 10% increased damage, which is kind of like you deal more damage and you take less damage, obviously. And then the other Ascendancies are Void Beacon. Nearby enemies have -20 cold res and they don't regen life, which is great. And Frigid Wake, this is a very good defensive buff, especially in ultimatums, because every 4 seconds 30% chance to freeze nearby chill the unique enemies for 6 seconds, and also non-unique enemies for 0.6 seconds. Great. And also you cannot be chilled or frozen, which I should probably change the flash then. Good. And for the last Ascendancy, Forbidden Power, it is 6% increased area of effect per power charge, 6% increased damage per power charge, again a power charge after spending a total of 200 mana. We really don't benefit from this because our Cyclone only costs like 3 mana, Vortex is 31 mana, and you will need a lot to benefit from that. But the most important things are the AoE, the damage, and the +1 maximum power charges. Okay, good. Now let's talk about some jewels. You see a lot of circles here, so let me explain what these are. Starting from the left side, we are using a Transcendent Flesh. Transcendent Flesh basically is a temple jewel that gives you a lot of crit multi. The one line that we are interested from here is +7% to critical side multiplier per 10 strength on unallocated passives in radius. Because we don't take any strength nodes in here, we get a lot of crit multi, which is in return a lot of damage. Okay, with the cluster jewel, I am using a Blanketed Snow, Storm Rider, and Widespread Destruction. You could use a Prismatic Heart or something else. It doesn't really, whatever suits your budget. But because we are using we are able to use Killer Bots, we benefit from Storm Rider, which is great. What is Storm Rider? 10% chance to gain a power charge when you shock a chilled enemy. We don't shock, but our Skitter Bots do, so that doesn't apply to us. And then 25% increased cold damage with hits against shocked enemies. This applies to enemies shocked by Skitter Bots. And 25% increase lightning damage with hits against shield enemies, that doesn't matter. But the 25% increase cold damage with hits is really, really good. And then we have widespread destruction for more AoE and elemental damage. And we have blanketed snow, probably the biggest DPS increase from a large cluster jewel. Everybody wants this. Damage penetrates 10%, cold resistance against chilled enemies. We always chill, we always penetrate cold resistance. For the medium, we are using a magnifier and pressure points in order to get more crit, more AoE, and also 5% chance for our crits to deal double damage. And for the other jewel is just a damage penetrates cold resist, yes, and some resistances to help us get res capped. Okay, here we have a frozen trail. Frozen trail with at least 40 intelligence in radius, frostbolt fire, 2 additional projectiles. You can put this over here if you want. You do not need to put it in like necessarily here. You can put it here, you can put it here, you can put it in lots of places. Okay, great. And it doesn't have to be allocated. You know, you don't have to take the 40 end. You just have the circle has to touch 40 end. Okay, great. Over here we have a thread of hope in a large ring, and this is massive. This is such a good position for this. I hope they don't nerf it in the future. We take practical application. It just helps us with strength and dex. Deep wisdom, yes. Int, great. Arcane focus, ES regen, great. Snowfort, big DPS increased. Utmost intellect, lots of ES. Heart of Ice, lots of damage and lots of leech. And light eater, lots of leech, ES, damage when you're on full ES. It's great. Okay, and down here we have a energy from within, and it says increases and reductions to life and radius are transformed to apply to energy shield. Basically, this gives us this wheel is a combo of ES and life, but as you can see, when we put this in, it transforms all of it to ES, which is great for us. And the last jewel here is a Militant Fate by High Templar Dominus, and we will be taking Inner Conviction, which is 3% more spell damage per power charge. You gain power charges instead of frenzy charges. So yeah, it's basic. We have 8 of them, so 3 times 8 is like what, 24% increase more spell damage per for all our power charges. Okay, so that's that. The other jewels can be just get corrupted blood, some ES. We don't have a lot of non-unique jewels or non-cluster jewels. Oh yeah, the Watcher's Eye. The Watcher's Eye, it is a base crit, critical strike chance while affected by hatred. This is huge. It helps you get closer and closer to that elusive crit cap. And the second one is just a bonus, like consecrated ground you create while affected by zealotry causes enemies to take 9% increase more damage. It's if you can get just the crit by hatred or something like that, they can help you get crit cap, and the other mod can be like the cheapest one that gives you something, right? It doesn't have to be exactly like this. This one I think is a bit expensive. It's let me see actually. This one is like 18x, so it is a bit expensive. Just get the crit and then something else randomly here. Okay, now let's hop into the POB before this video becomes 1 hour long. So because we are low life, we are obviously taking Pain Attunement, which is 30% more spell damage when on low life. We're always on low life. We get a boatload of damage. Like you can see this gives us like 2 million damage. Okay, now you notice that I have this one here, which I don't have in my tree. The idea is that this jewel, it is the next big upgrade that you can get. It is Master of Fear, Wish for Death. This gives us enemies you curse are unnerved, and Wish for Death, you have Culling Strike against cursed enemies. And yeah, I didn't buy this because I already have enough damage to do all the end game. As you saw, like the bosses just melt away. You have no resistance in the game, right? But if you have this or you have the money to use it, buy it, use it, and then unspec from these 3 points. Okay, great. So as you can see, we're taking all the aura effect, the aura nose, the aura reservation in order for us to take Skitterbot, so we can use Storm Rider and basically get that shock, right? We don't use a golem. So right now with the current setup and this cluster drill, we are at 9.1 million DPS, which is way more than you probably need, to be honest. And in the POB, you see we have power charges, which we have all the time. Inspiration charges are automatically put. We have a Flask active, obviously. I don't even have the tick deck. And are you on consecrated ground? Yes, we are on consecrated ground from our Ball of Faith 99% of the time. If you are on full energy shield, you deal more damage. We are on low life, it automatically selected. And over here is enemy ignited. Yes, because we have fire damage to spells. Is the enemy chilled? We always chill. Is the enemy shocked? Yes, from the skitterbots. Is the enemy unnerved? Yes, from the cluster jewel. Is the enemy on consecrated ground? Yes, from the Battle of Faith. As you can see, if it's not a boss, we're about like 16 million DPS, which just blows mapping out of the water. It is absolutely disgusting. So Sirus DPS 9.1 million. As you saw, I did Sirus 9. It was a non-issue. The guy just melted. It is a fantastic bosser. It is good in ultimatums because you freeze everything and you just spin to win. And yeah, all the skills here are ticked. Skitterbots, no cheesing. I'll have the POB listed in the description. There are things that you can improve the build, like put power charge on crit into your cosplays, but then you have to ditch something from there, and then you get another like I don't know, conk effect and get you another 1.6 million damage. Or you don't really want the elemental focus, but conk effect could be something. So yeah, this can be tweaked a little bit to your liking. So let's see here a little bit about the trigger rate, effective trigger rate, and your cyclone. As you can see, my effective crit chance is 99.2%. It is pretty decent. I could get it higher if I would try to divine my Watcher's Eye. What is it? If I would try to divine my Watcher's Eye even higher, if I would divine like the Battle of Faith, I could get it higher, but I don't really see the need to it for like 0.8%. It's a non-factor, even though I said in the beginning like you try to get it high as possible. This is as high as possible for me, for my playstyle, for my ideas, because I already did the end game. I'm done with the build. It's time to move on to something different. And yeah, I just want to show you guys that this build is actually amazing, and I highly recommend it if you have the currency and time and patience to learn the build. So yeah, as you can see, Cyclone attack rate is 7.46 with all our buffs up. And then our Ice Nova is 7.41, which we are still into the, whatchamacallit, the breakpoint, because we are not exceeding 7.57. We're still under 7.57, so we are good. So yeah, guys, that will be it for the build for now. I will be having the paste bin for the POB in the description below. I really hope that you guys try the build, or at least I piqued your curiosity about how it works and tried my best to explain how cast on crit works. If you have any questions or like concerns about why you're not getting crit cap, how can you're not fitting auras or stuff like that, Remember what I said about auto reservation. Try to reserve, take these points. These will help you reserve a lot of autos, trust me. So if you have any questions, again, you can drop by the Discord. I'll have the link also into the description. I try to stream as much as humanly possible on twitch.tv/Dante00151. By the time you're seeing this, I could probably be live, so feel free to drop a follow. It will help me tremendously and give me the confidence that I need to keep doing this. I know I'm not very good at it. I know sometimes I forget some stuff. But yeah, drop a follow on Twitch. I would really appreciate it. Sub to the channel if you enjoyed this video a little bit. I do plan to make another build, and when that build is done, I will make another in-depth guide and showcase of that build. If you're curious to see what build that is, again, drop by the Twitch, twitch.tv/Dante00151. And before I completely forget, just like I said, people asking for the MTX, I am using a dark, what's the name of this? Dark Shard weapon, Breach Core Alternate Helmet, Master Spellblade Body Armor, Sunrise Shield, Breach Core Gloves, Dark Shard Character Effect, Master Spellblade Boots, and the Dark Shard Footprint Effect. And for the skills, I'm using Blue Cyclone, Celestial Ice Nova, Black Hole Frostbolt, Celestial Frost Bomb, and the Transcendence Herald effect. So yeah, that will be it for me for now, guys. I really do appreciate it, and thank you for watching, thank you for chilling. And yeah, I hope to see you guys in the future. Make sure to sub to the channel, follow the Twitch, join the Discord, and as always, boys, stay safe.